I used to live with my mother in a tiny shack at the bottom of the sea. Even though Daddy left before I was born, and I'm an only child, we barely fit in that little thing. We're both whales, you know? We deserve lots of space to roam around in, but we just couldn't afford it back then. Life was cramped and difficult, but we did have our little pleasures. For instance, every Friday night was movie night. Mom would come home from work with a new tape from the video store. Then the two of us would crowd around the TV with dinner between us. And sometimes, she would even share her funny tasting drinks with me. It feels like so long ago now. All those nights spent sitting in the claustrophobic darkness of the living room with my mother, until a knock on the door one night changed everything. Nobody ever knocked on our door. We lived too far out of town. Whoever was out there must have been desperate, lost, or maybe I thought, just maybe my father had finally come home. In any case, my mother paused the movie and got up to check. I watched eagerly as she bent down, looked through the peephole, then opened her mouth ever so slightly for just 2 little words.
A crab?
Quickly though, she turned away from the door and came back to me on the couch. I asked her why she had ignored the person outside, but she said it was just some schmuck trying to advertise for the Krusty Krab. Then she unpaused the movie and raised the volume a few notches. However, trying to watch the movie after that was pointless. The crab outside kept knocking and knocking, and all my mother would do was keep turning the volume up until the speakers were about to blow. In the back of my mind, I was thinking of the Krusty Krab. All the kids at school loved eating there, but my mom never allowed me to go near it. I remember feeling like we had been the only 2 citizens of Bikini Bottom who didn't eat at the Krusty Krab. Suddenly, I zoned back into reality. Mother turned off the TV, shutting the room into a dark silence. The knocking had stopped too. Mother seemed more terrified than ever. Then, the unsteady quiet was broken when we heard the crab from outside saying,
"I know you're still in there."
Leave me alone! I won't be your inventory!
Well, who's gonna stop me? Oh, that's right, not your deadbeat husband.
How did you? Just get away from us!
Mommy, what's going on?
Shh, be quiet, Pearl.
Who's Pearl? Wait a minute, you popped out a pup after all. Even better, I'm gonna make a fortune.
When the crab at the door started laughing, I thought for a second that everything was going to be okay. But then he began pounding on the door again. Mother and I panicked. We went upstairs as fast as we could and locked ourselves in the bedroom. A few seconds later, Mother's face dropped. She said we needed to call the police for help, but she just realized she left the phone downstairs. I told her not to go down there and to stay and not leave me, but she looked at me one more time and said she didn't have a choice. She told me she would only be gone for a few seconds, and I believed her. Mother left the bedroom and made her way downstairs, even though she told me not to. I opened the door and peeked my head out just to hear better. I could kind of hear what was happening. As soon as Mother made it to the living room, I could hear the crab break through the front door and start attacking her. I knew she was trying to fight back, but as soon as he got his pincers around her, there was nothing she could do.
I'm so sorry, Mommy!
I barely managed to jump back into the room and lock the door. The crab immediately started breaking through, so I grabbed every piece of furniture I could to barricade it, though I knew it was only slowing him down, with nowhere else to go. I opened the window and tried to squeeze through it, but I was too big. I just got myself stuck, and then all I could do was look back and watch my fate unfolding before my eyes. The crab broke through the door, tossed the barricades aside like they were nothing. Then he looked at me and smiled.
Allow me to introduce myself, Miss Pearl. I'm Eugene Krabs. Together, you and I are gonna make more money than you could possibly imagine. How does that sound?
But what about my mommy?
It's all thanks to her, of course. She would have wanted me to welcome you into your new life.
And that's the story of how I met my new daddy, Mr. Krabs, and how he changed my life from being a sad piece of broke trailer trash to the life of fame and luxury I now know I deserve. He promised to give me whatever I want, so long as Mother's meat keeps us rich. He said he could turn her into something like 10 million Krabby Patties, but one day, it will be up to me to keep the family business going.
Anything for Daddy.
6-7. I don't know why everyone keeps saying that or what in the world it's supposed to mean, but to me, it just keeps reminding me the date my life went to shit, June 7th. Back in the day, I had it all. A multi-million-dollar law practice, a hot wife, a son who could stay out of trouble, and oh yeah, a hot rod powerboat. One day, June 7th, or 6-7 as I keep hearing, we went on a family boat trip. My wife Maggie was with me, as well as my son Paul, and his new girlfriend Mallory. At first, we fished for a while, but when we didn't catch anything good, we went to an oyster roast. We ate, drank, smoked, just whatever. On the way back though, I wasn't quite ready to pack it in, so I stopped us at a dockside bar for a few more drinks.
Hey, Dad, you're stumbling a bit there. You good to drive? Of course I am. You think I'm gonna let you drive? That's 150 horsepower pushing that thing. You can't handle it.
Oh, come on, Alex. He's a grown man. It's just a few miles anyway.
Fine, but I'm docking it.
That was around midnight, but I had good lights on my boat, so he should have been able to see just fine, but we were all drunk, so I told him to take it slow. Without even warning us, Paul went full throttle.
Ah! What the hell are you doing, Paul? Slow down! Relax, Dad. Just because you're too pussy to get up to speed doesn't mean I am.
You snotty little bastard! You're never driving my boat again! You hear me?
Guess I gotta enjoy it while I can.
Woohoo! Yeah! Go, baby, go!
Shut up! Stop encouraging him!
Alex, be nice to her.
Paul, look out!
Oh, shit! Paul! The bridge! Slow down! Paul!
By the time he realized his mistake, it was too late. Paul crashed my boat right into Archer's Creek Bridge. We were all thrown overboard and plunged into the darkness of the river. It was pure chaos. I couldn't see anything, and the impact put this ringing in my ears that made it impossible to hear anyone calling for help. All any of us could do was swim to shore. Miraculously, my wife, my son, and I survived with only minor injuries. Sadly, that poor girl Mallory never surfaced. We searched and searched for her, but she was gone. Days later, they recovered her body 5 miles down the river. My son was blamed for her death and arrested. I never should have let him drive the boat in the first place. I knew he couldn't do it sober, but to make matters worse, he was wasted. After that, my life started falling apart. My wife blamed me for everything that happened. We bailed Paul out of jail and told him we would do everything we could to keep him from going to prison, but he was racked with guilt and just never the same after that. Then, a couple years later, as if God couldn't take anything else from me, I found my wife and son dead. They'd been murdered. It had to be revenge. The family of the girl that died, they must have known I'd keep my son out of prison, so they killed him. But my wife, why did they have to kill her? Was my family not already in ruins? Perhaps they don't care about the details of how their daughter died. They just wanted to blame everyone that had anything to do with it. Anyone who was on that boat. My boat. Which means it won't be long until they come for me, the father of the man who murdered their daughter. My only choice if I want to go on living is to find out who murdered my family, prove it was them, and stop them before they kill me. That's my only option, right? It's not like someone could have already taken matters into his own hands. Someone else could have exacted revenge from the people who destroyed his life, who ruined everything he worked so hard for.
Oh, God! Maggie, come here! It's horrible!
Alex, what's wrong?
Just get in here now! Oh, God!
Okay, I'm coming. Alex, what's happening? Tell me.
He took his own life. I swear to God he did.
Who?
Our son!
No! My baby! This can't be happening! No! My baby boy! No!
Don't cry. It'll be over soon.
Please don't!
Just be still. This won't hurt a bit.
This 6-7 story revolves around an incident that happened on June 7th, otherwise known as 6-7. On June 7th of 2021, Paul Murdaugh and his mother Maggie were murdered. Prior to that, Paul crashed his family boat into another, taking out a female named Mallory Beach and injuring 2 other passengers. Murdaugh was charged with the death and injuries, including boating under the influence. He pleaded not guilty and was released on bond. He was eventually killed along with his mother on 6/7. At the time, his father Alex Murdaugh theorized that Paul and Maggie were targeted in retaliation for the boat accident. It was later revealed that the father did it because he wanted to gain sympathy and divert attention from his mounting financial crime. Alex Murdaugh was charged with their homicides over 13 months later.
Home sweet home, or so they say. But over here, there's nothing sweet about life inside this anchor. Every single day, I have to act like it's normal. I keep quiet, forced to let all the citizens of Bikini Bottom remain ignorant of the hell I'm living in. Pearl. They all think I'm some kind of rich, spoiled brat sleeping on a bed of roses night after night. But in reality, this place is a dungeon, and the things that happen here would make Davy Jones himself sick to his stomach. My dad, Mr. Krabs, runs every aspect of my life, from the food I eat to the clothes I wear, and much, much more. All the material riches he showers me with come at a cost. For my entire life, I have been the backbone of that greedy invertebrates business, the Krusty Krab. The people of Bikini Bottom seem to always revere Mr. Krabs, under the false impression that he single-handedly runs the restaurant, which feeds the entire city their favorite food in the form of Krabby Patties. Little do they know, I live in constant fear, always in the shadow of that terrible, heartless man. He makes a fortune peddling those patties with the help of that sycophant SpongeBob SquarePants and Squidward Tentacles, the biggest sadists in this side of the continental shelf. The Krabby Patty recipe, this so-called secret formula, is kept under lock and key. Nobody gets to know who Mr. Krabs' supplier is, or where the meat comes from. If they knew, they might not ever want to eat at the Krusty Krab again. Today, I'm finally going to change that. My part in this nightmare must be known. I just hope people will understand that I never wanted any of this. Obviously, the meat must come from somewhere, which is my end of the deal. Whenever the meat supply starts to run low, or more like whenever Mr. Krabs is in the mood, he comes to me in my room. It's always late at night, after everyone else in the city falls asleep, but I can always tell when it's about to happen. These are the darkest nights of my life, but without them, the Krusty Krab business would crumble, so Mr. Krabs never gives me a choice.
It's time.
No, please. You already did it 3 times this week. Can't you just let me rest?
Rest? What is it you think you do all day, sitting in here?
I'm hiding from you.
Hiding? You're far too big for that, Pearl. My plump little meat pumper.
Stop it! I don't want to hear that sick shit, please! You're supposed to be my father, not this.
What? You don't like it when I call you a shell shucker?
Ugh, no!
A claw kisser?
Shut up!
How about crab trap?
Stop! I can't listen to you anymore! I can't go through with
Shut
it!
up! You know the routine.
No, not again, please! After Mr. Krabs is done with me, he leaves me alone in my room feeling violated, with brand new scars inside and out. I can never sleep when he does this. I'm always left wondering where my real parents are, if they died when I was young, if they willingly put me up to this life, or if this is just what it means to be a whale. Mr. Krabs never sleeps after he's had his way with me either. He doesn't just roll over and give me an opportunity to kill him. No, the attack energizes him. It gets him in the mood for more business. He always locks me inside the house and then calls his employees for a late-night supply run. This is where the reality of the business becomes even more horrifying. As bad as I have it, as much torture as I endure, I am only one person, yet by Mr. Krabs' demented design, there are many others who are subjected to this nightmare. They are like me, but at the same time, they are monsters. I only get to see them once before they are taken away. Then after that, I can only hear them. My one chance to catch a glimpse is to watch through my window on nights like these.
Good evening, boss.
Were you followed?
No.
Good. Now come on. The goods are about to expire.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm
Can
ready.
it, boy? It's right here. As you can see, Pearl and I have been busy. Should be enough meat for the month, boys. Now get a move on.
Aye, aye, Mr. Krabs.
Here, this one. You get her by the legs, and I'll get her by the arms.
On an evening just days before Halloween, my parents went into town to go shopping. It was just me, my parents, and my little brother. Our parents always dragged us with them, despite not wanting to go. Amidst all the boredom, we looked around for anything interesting. This year, something huge caught our eye. Across the road from the shopping center was this cornfield. Normally, it was locked behind a barbed wired fence, but that day, the gate was open. There was a sign that said there was a maze on the other side, with a pumpkin patch. My brother and I both wanted to try it out, so we begged our parents to go. They didn't give us too much fuss about it, as long as I watched over my brother and met back up where we were told we should be good. As soon as we were loose, we crossed the road and entered the maze. The signs told us that if we could get to the center and find our way back out, we could take whatever we found with us. The rules felt a bit odd. No entry fee, no waiver, no hours of operation, just a good old-fashioned honor system. So, me and my brother started making our way through it. I led the way, while my brother followed. I began seeing the odd pumpkin growing out of the ground here and there the farther we progressed. It seemed like the increasing density of pumpkins was a sign that we were getting closer to the center. However, I never once considered that there was anybody else in the maze but us. Not until my brother spoke up from behind me.
Psst. Hey, do you hear that?
All I hear is you yapping.
Wait, just stop.
What? What is it?
Shh, just listen. It's people in the maze.
So? It's open to the public. They're probably just trying to beat it like us. Now, let's keep moving before they get too close.
I think they already are.
You're just being paranoid. Come on. I didn't listen to my little brother when he first told me that there were other people near us. I didn't think it mattered. I thought he was just bringing it up to be annoying, but I was ignoring the sound of true concern in his voice. Despite his worrying, I kept pushing us forward. Soon, I started hearing the same footsteps more often, but I was sure it was only because we were getting closer to the center of the maze, where more people were bound to be. However, it wasn't much later before I could no longer dismiss my little brother's fears.
Dude, we have to get out of here.
What? Why? We're so close.
And so are they.
Who?
The people that are following us.
Oh yeah? And what do they look like? Scarecrows?
No, pedophiles.
Really? How does someone look like a pedophile?
Well, turn around. They're right behind us.
Huh? Man, I don't see anyone. Stop making shit up.
I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You're trying to scare me, but it won't work. When we get home, I'm telling Mom you ran into Victoria's Secret.
What if I never get home?
Relax, you're gonna be fine.
Oh shit! Hey, let go of him!
The man came out of the maze and grabbed my brother right in front of me. I only had a moment to act before it was too late. I jumped in and grabbed my brother's hands and started pulling back. He was kicking like crazy, unable to get free. Suddenly, the man lifted my brother into the air and started to disappear back into the stalks. At the last second, I saw his crotch between my brother's feet, so I kicked it as hard as I could. After a few more seconds of desperate struggling, the pain finally hit him and he let go. My brother fell forward on top of me, nearly taking us both flat to the ground. We scrambled to our feet, Then I grabbed his hand, and we both started running. All I knew was to run away, back in the direction we started. Screw the maze. We cut through row after row of corn before we finally ended up outside the field. We hopped over the fence, then ran across the road. The entire shopping center stopped and swarmed us as we were both freaked out and screaming for help hysterically. It didn't take long for our parents to find us, and that's when we confessed to running off into the maze. Our parents called the police immediately. The maze got cordoned off until the men were found. Then, after we made the positive ID on them, they were arrested. And, of course, that they weren't able to hurt my brother. Obviously, though, I've never heard the end of this. I get told every single day to watch out for my brother, to not put him in danger, as if I don't already feel guilty enough about what happened. This story was inspired by a creepy pumpkin patch incident regarding two brothers who ended up in a dangerous situation while playing in a corn maze on a California pumpkin farm. The boys had been having fun in the maze and became separated from their family. After a while, the younger brother noticed two suspicious men following them. Before the kids could lose them in the maze, the boys said one of the men grabbed the young brother by the arm and tried to drag him away. To defend his sibling, the eldest boy kicked the man in the crotch. The boys managed to flee from the maze into the pumpkin patch to find their family and call the police.
Six, 7. Yes, I'm 6'7". I grew up with my parents, and when they got divorced, I was devastated as hell. At the age of 15, I ran away from my mom's house to my father's new home, only to find out he was remarried and had a stepson. He obviously cared more about his new family than me, because I was eventually shipped away to my grandparents on my dad's side. By then, I already stood 6'7". My grandfather was senile, and my grandmother somehow managed to emasculate me worse than my mother.
What are you doing standing around in the kitchen? Get out of the way before I abandon you like your parents! It felt so good taking out those old geezers. Afterwards, I had no intention of trying to run or hide. I phoned the police and confessed. Nobody could understand how a 15-year-old could do what I did without being insane. So I was sent to a maximum security psychiatric hospital. While incarcerated, I genuinely began to turn my life around. I had a good relationship with all the guards and doctors. Heck, I even made friends among the other patients, and there were some real freaks in there. Turns out my family was just that terrible. After 6-7 years of rigorous psychiatric therapy, I was fully rehabilitated. It was time for me to re-enter society. Unfortunately, I had no place to go, except right back to my mother's house. We fought endlessly, just screaming and violence all the time. Even after I got my own apartment, my mother would still not get out of my life. She was constantly calling me, making surprise visits, and doing everything she could to make me miserable again. With all that rage building up once more, I needed an outlet. Luckily, I live near a university, so there was plenty of young women all around to draw my attention. Back in the day, hitchhiking was a common thing. I guess it isn't anymore because of people like me, because I was using that to my advantage. When life sucks and your mother's a bitch, nothing satisfies like picking up 6-7 college chicks and snuffing their lives out and doing unspeakable things to their corpses. Need a ride? Yeah, can you give me a ride to Stanford?
Sure, get in.
Thank you so much.
I
appreciate you so much for this. I don't mind giving you some gas money for your troubles.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Thank you again. You have no idea how awesome you are. I was waiting out there for so damn...
Hello? Where are we? This doesn't look like Stanford. What the hell? Take these off!
Relax. I'm not gonna kill you.
Let me go! Stop, please! Help! Somebody help!
Going somewhere?
Yeah? Can you take...
Come on. That's it. Just a little longer. So where are you two headed?
Oh, you know, we're going.
Man, those were the days. Sadly, all good things must come to an end though. And at some point, I had to admit that my heart just wasn't in it anymore. As much as I appreciated the freedom of being able to kill anyone I liked and have my way with their bodies, I honestly preferred my life in the psych ward. There was just one person I had to take care of before confessing to my crimes and going away forever. My mother. Truthfully, it all started with her, so it only felt right that it should end with her.
Ed, is that you? Close the damn door. I'm trying to sleep.
It's time, Mother.
What?
This next 6'7" incident revolves around a 6'7" serial killer named Edmund Kemper, who is frequently described as being 6'7" and was a prominent subject in the true crime genre, particularly known for his co-ed murders in the 1970s. Kemper murdered his grandmother when he was 15 years old. He was sent to a mental hospital for 5 years as a result, but was eventually released after psychiatrists deemed him cured. Kemper was anything but, however. Upon his release, he embarked on an 11-month killing spree that terrorized Santa Cruz, California. He murdered and dismembered several women over the years and would perform acts on the corpses. Kemper's victims weren't only young women, though. He also brutally took out his own mother and her friend in April 1973. Afterward, Kemper fled California, only to telephone police from a Colorado phone booth and turn himself in.
When I ran away from home, I never thought I'd see another whale again. But by fate, I met Moby, the whale who ran the rock bottom underground. He saw the potential I had, so he took me in and made me the queen of his empire. Moby was the king of rock bottom. His black market fence deals kept the gang warfare profitable. If a fiend wanted to buy some stuff, whether it be sludge from the tar pits or concentrated kelp extract, they had to buy from Moby's men. There was only one part of his operation that was lacking. He needed someone to show his hoes how to shut up, take off their bikinis, and give bottom. Moby's customers were tired of the worn-out octopus rubbing tugs and skimpy little guppies. They wanted more bang for their buck, more pushing for the cushion, and I was as plus size as they came. I kept the small girls in line and raked in customer after satisfied customer. Moby didn't mind that I was selling my clam because he knew I was doing it for him. We ruled rock bottom together with dreams of expanding into the impenetrable city of riches and snitches called Bikini Bottom. Oh, those were the days when Moby and I were still in love. We're gonna be yours forever, right, Moby, baby?
Of course, baby. I'll never let you go. Never.
Of course, all that went out the window when he knocked me up. As soon as he found out, he caught the foul scent of another clam and abandoned the entire city. His empire crumbled right after. All his hoes turned on me. None of the warlords would take me in. They were all too focused, grabbing whatever power they could. I couldn't even sell my clam on my own terms because everybody thought I might have killed Moby. Before long, I became desperate. I couldn't even support myself, let alone a kid. First, I thought about just getting rid of it. Then, I had a better idea. At the very least, the baby could make me some money. But before I could do all that, I had to deliver it all on my own. When it was all finally over, I named her Pearl. Not because she was beautiful or anything, but because I almost died getting her out of me and I wanted to sell her for tons of money. I didn't want to think about those deep ocean dwellers wanting her. I just put her up to the highest bidder. I mean, up for adoption. Eventually, the deal closed on a guy named Mr. Krabs. I'd heard about him. He was a moneymaker who actually ran Bikini Bottom. No easy feat. We agreed on the discount if he could give me a boat to get out of town. I wanted a fresh start just like before. With Pearl in my arms, I made my way out to the undisclosed location for our meeting, and everything was riding on this deal. That's it, Pearl. Stay nice and calm. We'll show the nice man what a good girl you are. Huh? Hello?
Mr. Krabs!
Have ye got what I want?
She's right here. Now, what about your end of the deal?
Yar, of course. $10,000 and a key to a clean boat parked behind the Rock Bottom bus station, contained in this bag. But first, give me the child.
Goodbye, Pearl.
That's it. Come to Daddy. Yes, she's perfect. Oh, yes. Here.
Hey!
If I ever found out ye spoke of this to anyone, it won't matter where ye run. I'll find ye, and I'll grind ye. Understand?
Yes, now just give me my money, asshole. Once I got the bag from that freak, I was home free. All I had to do was trek back to the bus station, then get the hell out of town. As I drove away from that nightmare, I started to imagine how I would build my new life without crime, or pimps, or any of that bullshit. But then I crossed the border into Bikini Bottom. That's when I noticed cops hiding behind the welcome sign. They lit me up as soon as I passed. I thought the vehicle was clean, so I pulled over and smiled at them, just to hear that I was driving a stolen boat. It was over. They searched the boat and found everything else they needed. A trunk full of illegal goods, and worst of all, thousands of counterfeit money. I tried to explain what happened to the cops, but they wouldn't listen. Wait, no. I didn't know it was counterfeit. Mr. Krabs set me up. He gave that to me.
Yeah, right. Like the richest man in town pays for rotten clam like you in fake money. You're going down for a long time, ma'am.
No, wait. You have to listen to me. He has my child. He has my baby. It's been 16 years since that night, and I haven't seen a day out of prison. Mr. Krabs is out there living a normal life, a rich life, with my daughter Pearl, who will never even know about me while I'll be in here until the day I die.
I used to go to my best friend Logan's house often. At the time, it was around fall, just a few days before Halloween. We did our usual thing, like hang out, play video games, surf the internet, eat junk food, and then I would crash at his house. Thankfully, Logan's parents were super chill. They weren't nosy and didn't mind if we stayed up late. But there was one small thing. They went to church every week and would force their overnight guests to attend Mass with them if they were going. Since it was a Saturday, they said we could stay up as late as we wanted to, as long as we made it to church with them the next day on Sunday morning. Unfortunately, after gaming until nearly 4 a.m., me and Logan overslept. We only woke up when Logan's parents got back from church. They were upset, but instead of punishing us, they said we had to walk to the church and attend the evening Mass without them. We agreed and pretty much hung out till it was time to go. That's when me and Logan started making our way there. The church was apparently close by, just a 15-minute walk from the house if we took the shortcut way, which was apparently through a pumpkin patch, cornfield type of area. As we made our way through it, I remember being creeped the hell out as it was getting dark as hell, and I was paranoid that I would accidentally step on a snake or something. Dude, I wish we just went to church this morning. Quit whining. We're almost there. Man, we definitely don't have anything like this in my neighborhood. It's not as nice as it looks. There's spiders and shit everywhere. Shit, I'm not trying to die tonight, dude. Chill out. There should be a scarecrow around that scares shit like that away. Where is it? I don't see any. Just keep walking. We're getting close to it. It protects the plants, pumpkins, it helps scare away birds, spiders, and, hey, even pussies like you. Ah, screw this. Let's take the long way back or get your parents to drive us. Hey! Logan, stop! Logan, where are you? Don't leave me stranded here, you piece of shit! Logan! Logan? Holy... It's one hell of a Halloween decoration. No kidding. I dare you to touch it. Me? Okay. Ah! Run, dude, run! Logan! Logan, where are you? Shit! As soon as I realized we'd gotten split up, I tried to find Logan again. The last thing I wanted was for either one of us to get killed because we didn't stick together. I searched for him in that mess of random crops, pumpkins, and 1,000 other things that kept tripping me up. But when I finally found him, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The scarecrow was lying on the ground, and Logan was kneeling over it, sobbing. My first thought was that he'd beaten it to death or whatever, but then why was he crying? He wouldn't answer when I called his name, so I slowly approached him and looked over his shoulder. That's when I saw it. The pumpkin had come off of the scarecrow's head, revealing clear as day that it wasn't filled with straw or made of pillows. There was a person inside. Not just any person, Logan's father. The blood belonged to Logan's dad, who was now dead before us. Not knowing how else to help Logan, I called the cops. They pieced together what had happened. It was revealed earlier that night, on his way to the store, Logan's dad had been robbed by some gang. They took everything he had, but he fought back. However, he was outnumbered and beaten mercilessly, then got strung up like a scarecrow to bleed out. He was just minutes away from succumbing to his injuries when we found him. When he chased us, it was his last desperate attempt to get help. But there was no way we could have known. Ever since that night, Logan and his family have been devastated. I haven't seen my Logan since his father's funeral, which was years ago. I don't know when or if he will ever find a semblance of normalcy again. Whenever I see or hear about a pumpkin patch, I think of how we found his father in one during his final moments. This story was inspired by a disturbing incident regarding two friends who were walking through a Pennsylvania cornfield on their way to church one Sunday morning in 1909. While Maud Hofnagel and her friends were walking, she spotted something lying on the ground, which ended up being a scarecrow that had been knocked over. Maud walked over to set the scarecrow back up, but when she reached it, she screamed and fainted. Her friend ran to her and discovered that the scarecrow was actually the mutilated body of Maud's father, Charles Hofnagel. Allegedly, Charles had been walking home through the cornfield and was attacked. The police were able to determine that there was a fierce struggle between Charles and his attackers. Charles failed to overcome the other men, and his body was hacked to pieces. All of the farmer's money and valuable papers were taken from his pockets. It was clearly a brutal robbery, but the sheer shock value of the story led to it being printed in newspapers across the country.
I've tried so hard to get this out of my head, but seeing 6-7 everywhere is forcing me to remember everything. My dad was 67 when it happened. Prior to this incident, my mom passed away due to natural causes. leaving my dad to be living completely alone. At the time, he was in a small 2-bedroom apartment on the 20th floor. I moved out many years ago and started my own family, so my parents had downsized from their house to something more affordable. Of course, I tried to visit my dad as much as possible, but between work, my kids, and just life in general, I was too busy to see him. I knew he was getting lonely, and I'm sure that's what led him into taking in Natasha. She was a homeless crack addict with a violent criminal history. My dad didn't know anything about her past life though. All he saw was a person in need, and him being the way he is, he wanted to help her. From the start, I was against her being anywhere near my father. I'd seen her before lurking around the apartment block, begging for change, offering herself up in exchange for drugs, and making the entire neighborhood look like trash just by her presence. When I met her in person, it was even worse. She didn't have any redeeming qualities, no charming personality, not even a tragic backstory to explain how she ended up where she was. It became clear to me that she had chosen drugs and degeneracy again and again, using whatever means or people necessary, and discarding them when they no longer served a purpose. Not long after hoeing herself out on the streets, she eventually came across her next mark, who happened to be my dad. It's not surprising to me that she spun a web of lies and delusions to convince my dad to take her in. And since my dad was so emotionally vulnerable, it worked. Ever since she started living in my dad's spare room, she caused nothing but chaos and catastrophe. She used inside the apartment constantly, sometimes in her room, but oftentimes just sprawled out on the living room floor, writhing and muttering complete crack nonsense. When she wasn't high, she was paranoidly accusing my father of stealing and trying to assault her in her sleep. There were a lot of times that I went to visit my dad and found a random thug taking up space in the apartment. It was always just some drug dealer or pimp there to trade intercourse for drugs with Natasha, but she would tell me in a sly, sneering voice that they were there to protect her from my father, a harmless 67-year-old man still grieving the loss of his wife. One night, I was at home with my family about to put the kids to bed, when I got a random call from my dad, a phone call that I'll never forget.
Hello? Dad? Are you there? Dad? What's going on? Dad?
Shit!
When the call dropped, I had no idea what was happening. I drove there as fast as I could. A million things were running through my head. I never had my dad sound so scared in my life. What could that bitch be possibly doing? As soon as I got to the apartment, I didn't bother knocking. I busted right through the door. When I saw what was happening though, I knew it was already too late. My dad wasn't moving. He was just on the floor, with Natasha on top of him, as she stabbed him again and again and again. I was in shock. I couldn't move. I wanted to kill her. I wanted to run. All I could do was watch. A few seconds later, she finally noticed me.
You came for him! I'll kill you too!
She came right at me. I put my hand out to grab her wrist with one thought in my hand. Don't let her cut me. She spat at me and tried to bite me, flailing around like crazy. I finally wrenched the blade out of her hand when I buried my nails between her bones. But I still couldn't hold on to her. She shoved me back, then ran off. There was no way in hell I was going to follow her. She'd nearly killed me. And also, my father was still there. I went to him, but he was gone. With the amount of blood, the number of stab wounds, there was just no way. I called 911, hoping despite it all that he could survive. But sadly, the paramedics just confirmed he was dead by the time I got there. The cops located Natasha soon after, in a nearby alleyway, absolutely cracked out of her mind. Today, I am still grieving. Still making sure that wretched waste of flesh never sees the light of day again. As I try to move on, so many little things bring the pain rushing back. My father was 67 when he died, and now every time I hear some kids say 6'7", it's like a punch in the face. This next 6'7" story revolves around a 67-year-old widower male who was stabbed to death in an apartment which he had shared with his late wife for almost 2 decades. The suspect, Natasha McCallum, 42, was arrested and charged with second-degree murder after Robert was found with fatal stab wounds inside his 20th floor apartment. Robert's son said he knew McCallum had been living with his father for a few weeks after his father offered to take her in. Apparently, this Natasha girl was homeless and she needed somewhere to go, and the way my dad is, he is very caring and giving and offered her a place to stay. The victim's family was upset to learn that the suspect charged with his murder was eventually out on bail. The family has started a GoFundMe campaign to help cover funeral expenses for Robert.
A few years ago, just before Halloween, I was best friends with this guy named CJ. We were both troublemakers growing up, and did a lot of bad shit, like stealing, ding-dong ditch, stuff like that. We lived in the countryside, so there wasn't much to do. The town had a few houses here and there, but was mostly surrounded by farmland. There were a lot of cornfields, but a handful of farmers also grew pumpkin patches. The whole town went to places like that right before Halloween to pick out the nicest pumpkins to carve into jack-o'-lanterns. But, of course, all these wholesome memories didn't mean shit to me and CJ. All we wanted to do was steal the biggest pumpkins we could get our hands on, but it wasn't as easy as it sounded. The shitty thing is that we both knew the guy who owned the farm. He was an old bastard that was always there, always guarding the pumpkin patch like he had nothing better to do with his time. CJ and I planned on coming back late, when the guy was most likely asleep and also with no one around. We decided to go exactly a week before Halloween, when the pumpkin patch would be open for the season. We figured the old man would be way too frail to chase or do anything to us, even if he was still capable of staying up past 8 p.m. Around 1 a.m., I picked CJ up, then we set off. The old man's farm was 30 minutes from Main Street. As we got closer, things felt more serious, like the time for laughter was over until the deed was done. At the farm, all the corn had just been harvested, leaving most of the field surrounding his house completely flat and open, not shrouded in stalks like we'd been thinking. Still, the lights in the house were off, and as long as I didn't make any noise by rolling my truck up his driveway, it seemed like we would be fine. After all, the old man had to be dead asleep. Being careful not to shine any headlights on the house, I parked my truck off the side of the road. Then we started to sneak our way up to the pumpkin patch. With each step, I felt a growing sense of dread. We had only the moonlight to guide us, but even then, out there, I felt so exposed. I constantly kept looking at the house to make sure the guy wasn't watching us, or if any lights turned on inside, but nothing happened. As we walked further and further, the pumpkins came into view. When we finally made it to the pumpkin patch, I felt a bit of relief. Just getting there seemed to prove this whole thing was possible, and now we were surrounded by what could end up being hundreds of dollars worth of pumpkins. All that was left to do was start carrying the goods to my truck. But then, CJ took out his phone and turned on the flashlight. Dude, what the hell are you doing? Turn that off! Relax, he's not gonna see us. We got all the way here, didn't we? Yeah, without flashlights. Stop screwing around. How else am I supposed to know the good from the bad ones? They're all good, dumbass. Just turn that light off or I'm leaving. Now! Don't you dare leave me here, chicken shit. I'm shit! Run! After the first shot, we ran for our lives. We tried to find our way with CJ's flashlight, but it kept leading the shooter right to us. Shot after shot rang out, blowing the pumpkins at our feet to pieces. I thought for sure it was going to be one of our skulls next. But then, out of nowhere, we ran right over a ditch. Both of us tripped and collapsed into the dirt, just a yard or two from where we fell. CJ scrambled to shut off his light. Then we huddled as close to the bottom of the ditch as we could, trying to disappear. We kept an ear out, listening. There were no more shots, but soon there were footsteps. They sounded just like our footsteps, just crunching across the flat, dead corn. They more than likely knew we were close, like they didn't have to wander to find us. Finally, I made a judgment call. If they got any closer, we were both going to end up in jail, or even worse, die. While I still thought we had a window of hope, I got up and grabbed CJ off the ground, and we made a run for it. The shots kept coming as we ran, kicking the dirt up all around us, always just inches away. But we made it out of the field. We jumped into my truck. Then as I frantically turned the key, I looked back for the first time. In the middle of the dark, empty field was the old corn farmer standing right there, holding a hunting rifle while looking dead at us. I didn't look for long. I got the car running. Then I spun around and stepped on it all the way home. And that's the story of when CJ and I successfully got away with attempting to steal the old man's pumpkins while literally dodging death. He gave us all the warning we needed. CJ and I remained friends after that night, but we never tried anything so stupid again. Not after we almost died trying to steal pumpkins. This story was inspired by an incident regarding a pumpkin robbery. Farms View road stand in New Jersey was robbed of 200 pumpkins, and the thieves were caught in the act by the security cameras. At first, it might not seem like this would be a very profitable crime, but according to the owner of the pumpkin stand, they would have ended up selling for close to $3,000. The owners of the pumpkin stand were so distraught over the loss of the pumpkins that they offered a cash reward to anyone who had information on the suspects. The robbery itself happened in 3 stages. The security camera showed a vehicle approaching the pumpkin farm 3 different times during one night, and a team of individuals jumped out to load up the pumpkins. It was a calculated plan for stealing the pumpkins, and we may never know their motive. Fortunately, if the thieves' intent was to try and shut down the family-owned pumpkin stand, they were unsuccessful.